Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at the incredibly tense standoff between the United States and Iran. It feels like the whole world is holding its breath. So we're going to break down exactly how we got here and what might be coming next. And the new year kicked off with this, a pretty stark warning from the White House aimed right at Tehran. This isn't just typical political talk. This is the language you hear right before a conflict. It really set the stage for a dangerous start to the year.
So the big question is, right, how did we get here? To really get it, we've got to look at what's been happening on the streets of Iran. Because the spark that lit this whole international firestorm, it wasn't lit in some war room. It was lit in the marketplaces of Tehran.
Yeah, you see, this whole thing didn't start with missiles. It started with the price of bread. It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest threat to stability isn't an army, it's economic hardship.
The economic pressure on everyday Iranians is just immense. Just try to imagine this. Your cost of living jumps by over 40% in a single year. That's the reality that's fueling all of this unrest. And when you dig in a little deeper, the numbers are, frankly, even more shocking. A 72% jump in the price of food, that's not just a statistic on a chart. For millions of families, that's a daily struggle to survive. And that's a powerful reason to get angry.
And so, of course, that anger had to go somewhere, right? It spilled right out onto the streets. It started with merchants in Tehran who were protesting a currency that was just collapsing. But it quickly snowballed, pulling in students, spreading to cities all across the country, and growing into a huge nationwide movement.
And as the protests got more intense, so did the government's response. The tragic loss of life, well, that just poured gasoline on the fire. It turned what was a domestic crisis into a real international flashpoint.
But here's the thing. It pretty quickly became clear that this was never just about the economy. As the crowds grew, the things they were demanding started to change, revealing some much, much deeper frustrations.
Experts on the ground, people like Suzanne Maloney, they noticed a major shift. The chants weren't just about high prices anymore. No, they were targeting the leadership directly, and they were questioning why the government was spending so much money abroad.
And that is the absolute key here. The core issues became deeply political. People were out there openly demanding a change in government and challenging the supreme leader's rule, which has lasted for decades. This wasn't a protest anymore. It was starting to look like a rebellion, a direct challenge to the very foundation of the Islamic Republic.
Okay, so as all of this is unfolding, the protests getting bigger, turning violent, Washington starts watching very, very closely. And the language coming out of the White House got a lot sharper, drawing a straight line between the safety of these protesters and what America might do about it. There's no other way to read this, right? It's a straight-up threat of intervention, a massive escalation. It basically took an internal Iranian issue and turned it into a direct U.S.-Iran confrontation. It put Tehran on notice that a violent crackdown could trigger an American military response.
And this just lays it all out, side by side. You can see the standoff so clearly. Two leaders, two nations, just locked in this war of words, where every threat pushes them another step closer to a real conflict. You've got President Trump saying he'll knock the hell out of them, and President Pezeshkian firing right back that any aggression will be met with a harsh and regrettable response.
So you might be wondering, how did things get this bad this fast? Well, this level of tension definitely didn't just appear out of thin air. It's really the latest chapter in a long, difficult history, built on a whole series of recent events that have steadily pushed both countries closer and closer to the brink.
All right, let's just quickly connect the dots here. It really kicks off in 2018 when the U.S. pulls out of the nuclear deal and slaps all those sanctions back on. Then you fast forward to June of 2025, a huge escalation. The U.S. carries out actual military strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. That sets the stage for December, when all that economic pressure finally boils over into these huge protests. And that, of course, leads us right to January 2026 and the president's locked and loaded warning. You can see it, right? Each event is one more step up a very dangerous ladder.
And that right there brings us completely full circle. This explains the why behind all that economic pain we talked about at the beginning. The American sanctions, which were designed to pressure Iran over its nuclear program, its weapons, and its influence in the region, are the exact same policies that have crippled its economy and helped light the fuse for the protests we're seeing today. So it all leaves us with this one critical question. All this fiery language, is it just a negotiating tactic, a way to force a change? Or is this the prelude to a new and incredibly dangerous conflict in the Middle East? Honestly, the answer to that question could shape the future of the entire region. And for now, the world is just watching, hoping for the best, but probably bracing for the worst.